أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذي أذهب الله عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh everybody, and we go now deeper into the study of Sirat al-Mustaqim, the path of the steadfast path, where we want to stay the straight path. And with the way the world is today, everyone thinks their path is the straight one, and there is this marketing campaign that keeps going on, where we see that everybody wants to propagate their own way and say that we're the right ones and you should follow us. And with that striving comes this effort and convincing that, come to my path, this is the right path, this is the right path. And last time we discussed that everybody has to get on their own journey into what is the truth for them. Yesterday we were having a discussion where a question popped up, and somebody said that, how do we find how somebody said that, to be on the right path and to get to the right goals, you need a teacher. And somebody said, but the problem is that we find a teacher and we start following the teacher, and then, after a little while, we find out, oh, he's not the right teacher, and what he's teaching is not correct, etc., etc. And then you have to abandon that teacher and then you move on to another teacher. And so how do you know that your leader or your teacher is the right one? Like, how do you know what I'm teaching you is correct? I may be saying things that may not even be correct or true. And so how do you come about coming with a clear and reliable way of understanding what the truth is and who the right teacher is? And the discussion is that if, the Quran itself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I think in Surah Baqarah, that, this very Quran can be a means of guidance for you and misguidance for you. The same book that we think is perfect, free of any mistakes, it has been determined for the rest of eternity that it cannot be changed. And we're still looking at this idea and saying, well, what if the Quran itself can be a means of guidance and misguidance for some people? Then what is the criteria of truth? And the answer lies again in that journey. So the journey that we keep talking about, of taking this journey within ourselves, going inside. Now, the idea is that as long as the human mind has chatter, as long as the human mind is constantly interfering in our decisions in life, if our mental chatter still gets to have a place in the decisions we make, then the bias is inevitable. Then the prejudice is inevitable. Then my own personal self is inevitable in making of that choice. Now, over here, when I say the self, I don't mean the capital I am, the nafakhtuhu fihi min ruhi, the God particle. I don't mean that. I mean the egoic self. I mean the self that has to be let go, the self that gets in the way. There's a hadith which is attributed to the last Imam, Hazrat Imam Mahdi Ajjalallah. And the hadith, that it really caught me when I read it many years ago, and it said, remove yourself from the way and I will come. And the reason it resonated so much with me and I found so much wisdom in it is because this is all the ancient wisdom we find in any scripture. Whether it's Taoism, whether it's Buddhism, all of these ancient wisdoms of the mystic, they talk about this, of letting go of the self. And so, what will come? What is Mahdiism? Mahdiism is the coming of the awakening, the enlightenment, the waking up to the truth. And that's why, Mahdi comes from the word Hadi, like the one who guides, the guided one. So, there is this guidance that needs to come to the heart. And for that guidance to come to the heart, there has to be a certain criteria to be able to understand the truth. Now, if you look at the heart, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in I think surah number 13, ayah number 11, he says that Allah will not change the condition of a people unless they change what is within themselves. And I think that the greatest change that any nation can ever want is the change of their guidance. So, whatever we're doing, whether we're too industrialized and we want to go back to the farming ways or the organic way of life, whether we're too sick and we want to be healthy again, whether we're too capitalist and we want to be social again, whether we're too materialistic and we want to become spiritual again, whatever kind of guidance we want, whatever kind of change the society wants to see, the change can only come when there's a change from within. That means guidance can only come. Change is a reflection of our guidance, right? Wherever we're guided, that's the trajectory we take. So whatever kind of guidance we get influenced by, we're going to make that change towards that. That's why a lot of times people who don't fit into the society, or who are rebels, or who think for themselves, or who are understanding that something is not right and I need to make a change in my life, they start looking for guidance. They'll go for holistic healers, they'll go for spiritual masters, they'll go read books. They're looking for guidance whenever we want to see a change, whenever we get sick of being sick, whenever we're too tired of our plight and we feel like we're in some sort of decay, in some sort of degeneration, then we want to change our ways. And they say rock bottom is the best place to start, because now there's no way. So when societies, people, individuals reach a place of pain, which is so strong that now it's there's no other way. Now you're like, okay, I really need to change. This cannot go on. Then we start looking for guidance. And this guidance then becomes the means of the outer change. So what we're seeing here is that in order for change to come about, there needs to be a guidance, and that guidance and change cannot happen unless Allah is saying unless you change what is within yourselves. So I was just very casually listening to a documentary, and I forgot all about the class today. And it was about health. And I was listening to a woman called Wani, and she says that all throughout her life, she was really sick and she was like a zombie. She was constantly under the weather with allergies, and she was overweight, and she felt really sick most of her life until she reached rock bottom and she had to have an appendicitis operation, get it removed. And at that point, she said, I need to look, where is my health? How do I regain my health? How can I live a healthy life? So that rock bottom place becomes our place of wanting change and guidance. Now, when she did that, she realized that all of the foods that generally we get in the Western world, they're so processed. And what they do is that they take so long to be digested that the gut lining starts to let go of the antigens into the bloodstream, and that causes inflammation in the body. And most of this overweight and unable to let go of the heaviness in our body comes from inflammation, because that is body saying that there are toxins in your body that I need to fight. And to keep fighting those toxins, body is constantly in a state of inflammation. And so the body becomes heavier and heavier, and you're thinking you're overweight and you want to change, your diet to become thinner. But the main problem is that we're eating food which is so against the nature of the body that it's staying in a constant state of fight. And so the cortisol levels are really high, and your body is in a state of inflammation. So the point is that she's looking for this guidance. And what was beautiful is that the doctor who was interviewing her, Dr. Markham, I think I can share the link. He says that they're having this conversation, and she's saying, what, how should we change our diet? What should we eat? And the doctor says, for me it's very simple. I don't even look for labels on food. If it's made by God, I eat it. If it's Twinkies, I don't eat it. God didn't make that. So the simple rule for me is, the doctor is saying, it needs to be made by God. And I just felt like, of course, I'm in love with God, so it excites me. But the thing is that it's so simple to find healing when it comes to the human body or the soul. It has to be Tawheed. It has to be going back to God, removing all human interference in our lives, and saying a human being needs to be the means of bringing me anything, whether it's interpreting anything for me, teaching me anything for me, feeding me spiritual food, or the actual food for the body. Even now the doctor himself is saying that my formula for healing is to see if the food is directly made by God. And so wherever there is human intervention, if there is a obvious chance of flaw, because a human being is flawed, right? We're not perfect. We are full of flaws. So whenever we interfere into something, we bring our flaws into it. And our healing and perfection and guidance and change for the better lies in going back to God, in constantly going back to Tawheed, and constantly going back to that one God. So we can say that, how can then we dismiss all the teachers and all the imams and the prophets who became the intermediaries between us and God? Can't dismiss all of that. But what we're seeing is that there's a little bit of a glitch here. The right teacher will come and tell you to create your direct connection with God. Any teacher who comes and says you're not good enough, you don't have the power, you don't have the connection, you don't have the ability to go directly to God, is not teaching you the right way. Because we come from God, and we need to go back to God, and in between there needs to be only God. And what ends up happening is that if we have teachers who make us constantly rely on human support, then we're not finding Tawheed. We're not going back to La ilaha illallah. We're not, instead of letting go of idols, we start to build idols. We kind of start to add idols into our life, and we start to form a reliance on human beings, which becomes almost idolatry or like shirk. So the idea is, how do we find the right guidance? How do we find the right teacher? How is it that the Quran is guidance for some and misguidance for some? And the same prophet and the same imam, who we think was the epitome of human liberation, was the apex of human nobility and civility and refinement, could birth groups like Daesh and ISIS. And so we have to understand one very important thing about this aspect of our life, is that we come back to that ayat where Allah is saying nothing can change unless what is within you changes. That means that the beginning is within. The starting point is within us. And the way the starting point is within us is that we have to sincerely come into a place of understanding our hearts, who we are. And that's why when we look at those who revert to Islam, who come to Islam, they have come into that place of inner change and seeking guidance. What they do is that when things don't make sense to them, they have the courage to say, let me get out of my box and look beyond this box and see what is outside. The Christian will say that that only Christians will enter heaven, and the Jews will say we are the chosen ones, and the Muslim will say we are the special ones, and the Shia will say without the wilaya of Imam Ali you cannot enter heaven. And so everyone will have their own um, criteria of success, and they will say, well, this is the truth and this is it, and then now you will be successful or not. And we grew up with these understandings of finding truth, and we were told, well, there are so many paths, but this path is the direct path, this is the right path, this is the straight path. I remember having a discussion many years ago with a very young chap who was very like adamant about the hadith and very staunch in his stance. And he gave me a hadith from one of our hadith books, which quoted Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and said that a Shia, or the follower of the Ahlul Bayt, or the Wali, the one who believes in the Walayat of Imam Ali, will enter heaven no matter what he does. Now, what that kind of does is that it puts us in a state of complacency, and it puts us into a state of stagnation where we can be doing anything, but as long as we have love for Imam Ali, which we don't understand what love is, first of all, we think like, okay, I've connected myself to Imam Ali, and now that's it. And what that does is that instead of being growth centric, it's regression centric, because it's telling you don't need to do anything. And like I mentioned earlier, maybe, but I'll say it again, that um, heaven has its stages, and whatever we ask for is what we get. If we just want entry into heaven, then one of my teachers said that there will be like roadsides on the in heaven, and there will be actual palaces in heaven. And if you just want to enter the heaven, then you don't know, you might just be sitting on the footpath on the roadside for the rest of your eternity, because that's going to be the level of entry into heaven for you, because majority of the people will enter heaven. Allah is not sadistic, or he doesn't want to revenge us, or he's not waiting to punish us. But most people are good at, a lot of the humanity is just suffering, and most of us are just confused, and we don't know where to go and what to do. But we're good people, most of us. In the end, it's the adversities that pushes us into things like evils, like you know thugging and murder, and theft, and becoming smugglers and things like that. It's our adversity, it's our pain and suffering that puts us into positions where survival becomes a problem, and that pain, that suffering, that emotional trauma that we carry pushes us into a bad field of life. But we're actually good people, so most of us will go to heaven. But the thing is that to have this kind of idea that without any work, without any change, we can be in heaven is completely against the nature and law of life. That the cause and effect of life doesn't support an idea like that. The reason being that we know that when we're going to die, our bodies are not going to be useful. And what is going to be useful is what we take with us. And we don't have any gold coins that we can take with us. We cannot take, there's no way to transfer any of this, because it's the same as a dream. When we go to sleep and then when we wake up, we we can't bring anything from the dream into the real, or into this world. So that's the nature. And so if we're going to say that I love Imam Ali and then that's going to save me, what about the love of Ali is going to save us? What is shafaat? What is intercession? Is purely being able to put our steps into their steps and do what they did. And act like they acted and have a heart like they had, because that's emulating Ali-ness. If we have Ali-ness in us, then we can be with Ali, because there is a understanding that on the day of judgment, on the day of you know the the day when Allah is going to do insaf. He's going to be just. He's going to give justice. Doing justice is to put things where they belong. That is justice. And the opposite of justice would be that things are not where they need to be. So on the day of judgment, the character that we infuse ourselves with, who we become internally in our ikhlaq, in our way of thinking, in our internal weather, temperature. Is there anger, hatred, jealousy, resentment, all enmity? These characters, if we have worked on that, and we have emulated the heart of Ali, if we've emulated the heart of the Holy Prophet, if we've emulated that, then we become eligible to be put on a shelf. If it's a supermarket, for example, then you'll see that everything is put in their categories. All the noodles will be in one category, all the spaghetti will be in one shelf, all of the condiments are in one area of the supermarket. This is justice, putting like things together. And so on the day of judgment, on the day of justice, justice will be served when likenesses will go next to their likenesses. And the way we want to be there, if we want to be close to Imam Ali alayhi salam, then we want to become like Imam Ali alayhi salam. And what we see is that Imam Ali did not fall for any of those, worldly ideas of truth. He followed his, direct connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the age of 13. What he did is that he saw truth with the Prophet, and he was okay with being abandoned by the entire Quraysh, by the entire Meccan society, to be with this one man. And it takes a strong level of belief for you to be able to let go and abandon all that there is, because now the truth has touched your heart, because you were sincerely looking for the truth. At the time of the Prophet, the things people said were like, put cotton in your ears because he's going to derail you. He's going to misguide you. He's got magic spells on you. He's gonna ruin your youth. These were the words that were being said for the Holy Prophet, that he's going to misguide everybody and he's going to ruin our society. He was breaking the norms, and he was bringing people out of what they had entrenched themselves in the name of ancestry, in the name of culture, in the name of tradition. And to be able to see the truth, to be able for those people like Bibi Sumaya to see the truth, for Hazrat Ammar to see this man is holding truth, was this sincere yearning and seeking in the heart for truth, because now you are so tired of seeing the injustice, of seeing all the wrong. And it's when a person is in that openness to say that I deserve a better existence. This is not making sense to me. The human restlessness takes over and it overwhelms us. That's when we start to get out of our comfort zones. When the water starts boiling, then you want to jump out of it. So the challenges in life, the pains in life, they become the best means of purification of the heart. When we come to a place of touching rock bottom in our life, it's the best place for us to start new. And this is the quality in the people who reverts to truth, because what they experience is coming to a place of saying enough is enough. I'm not okay with this. I need to find something which clicks with me, which rests with me, which is the truth, which is the right. And to do that, you have to get out of all ideas of what you were taught and what the society is telling you to believe, and then create that sincerity in your heart that you start praying to a God. Now, just with a very open mind, you know. I do not mean any disrespect to anything or anybody, but just be very human and close your eyes for 1 minute and think of that person who's completely feeling lost, who is disillusioned by the religion he was taught. For example, a Sikh or a Jain or a Hindu or a Jew or a Muslim even. But because we are, we are discussing, you know, Quran. So just for ease of imagination, think of yourself coming out of a particular religion. You've left your old religion, and now you're standing in a place where you don't know what the truth is. Now you don't know what the right path is, and you've taken off that garment of any religion, and you're standing at the crossroads of picking a new one, and you're feeling completely confused and lost. Who are you going to talk to? Who are you going to ask for help? You don't even know what God looks like. You just know there's a power greater than me that sustains me and gives me breath and guides me and has protected me all of my life. Who are you going to address your plea to in your utter state of humility? Who are you going to talk to? You have no human being you can rely on, because all human beings are full of flaws. All human beings are in a state of multiplicity where they pick a path. But the only entity free of any path, the only entity free of any restriction or any, given boxed idea would be that higher power, higher consciousness, universal energy, God, who's sustaining you, who's giving you pure food, who is there for you and giving you breath and showing you miracles in nature every day, bringing night out of day and day out of night. And in that state, you become completely free and pure of all human attachments or reliance. And in your conversation, you reach out directly to that higher power. And you go into sajda in your inner state of surrender and you say, I am confused. I am lost. I don't know where to go. I don't know what my path is. Guide me. And over here, it's difficult to express that state in words because it's a really, really humbled state of losing yourself and not having any faith in yourself or anybody else. And you have no trust in your judgment or anybody else. And in that state of completely surrendering and letting go, you ask the higher power to put guidance into your heart. And so when we do that, Quran is replete with ayat of saying, Allah is the one who is your guide. Allah is the one who protects you. So, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel, and all of these ayat, they say that you have now completely lost yourself. The hadith that we were saying, that remove yourself from the way and I will come. That is that state where now you're standing at a place where you've let go of all your teachings and you're standing and you're emptying your heart and saying, I have let go of me, my ideas of truth, my ideas of divinity, my ideas of right and wrong, my ideas of which religion is right or wrong. All of that I've let go. When we let go of that, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees that now this heart is ready. This heart is empty to be filled with only me. That's why, this is the state of La ilaha illallah, where there is a La first. La, no, khalas, empty. You empty your heart. And once your heart is empty, then ilaha illallah, the master who is only Allah, that he fills himself within your heart. Then you see people who have made history, who have, taken the untreaded path. Nobody's done that. If you watch that show Cosmos by Neil deGrasse Tyson, he talks about astrology and the cosmos and the universe. And he talks about this man by the name of I think Oliver, many, many hundreds of years ago, who had a dream about Earth being round and there being a cosmos and there are planets at a time and nobody had agreed to that. He got visions of it. And when he had visions of it, there was no plotting, there was no mapping of the solar system at that time. And he saw himself, flying through the planets, and he saw these celestial bodies. And when he talked about it, people started saying that he's a lunatic, and he's lost his path, and he's misguided, and he's going against the church and things like that. And because of his true inner belief and his yearning and his search, he never let go of his truth that was descended into his heart, you know. And this is what happens with the people who yearn for Allah directly, that we have already talked about, that, walam yakullahu kufuwan ahad. There is no one like him. There is nothing like him. And so when he will reveal himself to the heart of a seeking believer, it will be nothing like anybody ever knows or imagined or has experienced, because everybody, will have their own experience with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so in Quran, there's a distinction when Allah is calling himself Allah, and then there's a time when he's saying your Lord and he's saying my Lord, is because while the essence and the truth of God is one, the experience of God will always be different and unique to each human being. And that's why my imagination and my experience and my relationship with my God will be different from your relationship with your God. And that is why Allah is saying when he's talking, and when the prophets are talking, they're saying my Rabb, my Rabb. It's a lot like a mother having a couple of children, and two children will not have the same relationship with their mother, even though the mother is the same. The relationship with their mother will be different because of everybody being different and unique. And what aspect of mother, one child can activate and experience is not something the other child will ever experience because of who they are, with my daughters, one is completely into creative and art and colors and all of that, and the other is quite the nerd, and she's into the formula and the study of math and learning the grammar. And so they both experience me as their own mother, but in such a different way, that if I could stand in their shoes and look at myself, I would look like two different people because their experience is different. And so that's why our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be very unique and different. And that is something we have come here to experience and immerse ourselves into, which is an opportunity we would lose if we got stuck in who is my teacher and what are they teaching me. And it needs to be a calculated, pre-designed path from somebody else given to me, and then I follow that. Now, I was reading this book, Happiness by Matthew Ricard, and I liked one sentence which he said, which is so profound, which is something I've not been able to express, because as women we are very much in a flow and we're not so, let me just read the sentence. So he says that he says that our concepts freeze things into artificial entities, and we lose our inner freedom, just as water loses its fluidity when it turns to ice. So our concepts turn things into artificial entities. And what that does is that when we get too caught up in the concept, and we let go of the intuition and the heart and what we feel, then we become really stuck and rigid, and there's no flow, there's no movement within us in terms of our inner growth. And it explained that, we see that the concept of meeting God is all about the heart. It's all about Allah saying, I live in the heart. I live in the heart. I can be encapsulated by the heart. And the Quran is saying that, you will, I just want to read that out. I'm going to open the share just now. Yeah, see, the ayat over here about Qalbi Salim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I'm just going to use a pointer. Over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, a Qalbi Salim is a heart that meets its Lord while it is empty of anyone other than Him. And the ayat of the Quran is saying, where is the ayat of the Quran? Yeah, at the top over here, verse 87 and 89 of Surah number 26. And disgrace me not on the day when they are raised, the day on which neither wealth nor children will avail, except one who comes to Allah with a sound heart. A sound heart is Qalbi Salim. And a Qalbi Salim is a heart that meets its Lord while it is empty of anyone other than Allah. And then there's a hadith of Imam Ali over here that sickness of the heart is a calamity which has a profound effect on the eventual outcome of the human being. Imam Ali says, surely from the affliction is poverty, and worse than poverty is the sickness of the body, and worse than sickness of the body is sickness of the heart. Surely from the blessings is ample sustenance, and better than that is the health of the body, and better than that is the health of the heart. And the importance over here is that we're saying, how do we live in the heart? How do we empty this heart? How do we come to a place of this emptying where we can have the direct connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The 3 points given here is remembrance of Allah in solitude. And you see over here, the Holy Prophet is saying, attain softness of the heart through the zikr in privacy. Attain softness of the heart with zikr in privacy is saying that the heart needs to be in a state of flow. It needs to be in a state of what? Not a frozen state of ice. It needs to be a melting heart, a moving heart, a motion, a heart full of motion. It's vibrating, it's beating, it needs to be a beating heart. The second point over here is wisdom and knowledge. Obtaining knowledge is instrumental in keeping the heart alive. Luqman al-Hakim once advised his son, my son, seek wisdom for Allah enlivens the dead heart through the light of wisdom, the way he livens the dead earth through water from the sky. A hadith of Imam Ali says, surely the heart gets tired just like the bodies, so seek for them new objects of wisdom. See over here, Imam is saying new objects of wisdom. A believer should set aside some time from his daily schedule to read or listen to wisdom that inspires him spiritually. Number 3, keeping company with the virtuous. A human being is affected by the company he keeps. When he is often with people of high moral qualities, he becomes inspired to be like them. That is why Islam emphasizes a great deal on choosing friends of good moral standards. Imam Ali says, associating with people of moral excellence is life for the heart. And so what we see here is that, sorry about that. So what we're seeing here is that there's a heart that needs to be empty, which is Qalbi Salim. And Qalbi Salim is a heart that is now not my heart. It's a heart that I hand over to the higher power and I say, I let go. I let go and I want to be surprised. I want to be shown. Now, the ayat in Surah Talaq, where Allah says, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Allah will open a path for those who have faith in Him. And He will make a way out for them and provide for them from sources they could never imagine. We know that the biggest risk is not the risk of food. It's not the risk of um, uh, material things. It's not the risk of wealth in the material sense, but the highest form of risk is the food for the heart. And Allah is saying that if you put your faith in me, then I will open sources of risk for you from where you can't imagine. But if we're just going to say that my guidance will come from the Molana or my guidance will come from only within this sphere of knowledge, then how are we letting Allah surprise us? He's saying sources you can't imagine. Where will this knowledge come from? So, coming back to that discussion of the right path, who is the right teacher? How do we gain guidance? How do we know that we're in the right hands? Is to come to this place of understanding that we have to open our hearts and be a seeker and yearn and then say yes to whatever comes without any biases and without any self involved in it. The more tangible way of letting go of the self is to say, let me let go of my theories that I build in my mind. My theory about feminism, my theory about theology, my theory about socialism or capitalism or whatever, my theories. The my has to go. Again, in this book, there's this beautiful parable that the writer has written that let me read it out. He says that there is another example to illustrate our attachment to the idea of mine. You are looking at a beautiful porcelain vase in a shop window when a clumsy salesman knocks it over. What a shame! Such a lovely vase, you sigh, and continue calmly your way. On the other hand, if you had just bought that vase and had placed it proudly on the mantel, only to see it fall and smash to smithereens, you would cry out in horror, my vase is broken, and be deeply affected by the accident. The only difference is the label, my, that you had stuck to the vase. This erroneous sense of a real and independent self is, of course, based on egocentricity, which persuades us that our own fate is of greater value than that of others. If your boss scolds a colleague you hate, berates another you have no feelings about, or reprimands you bitterly, you will feel, sorry. So basically, the idea is that what he's explaining is that this label that we put as my becomes the greatest problem. When I say my theory, my logic, my belief system, my way of understanding, my experience, my life, my knowledge, then my research, then you immediately close the door for what Allah is saying in Surah Talaq, that I will provide for you from a source that you can't imagine. Why? Because a source that I can't imagine can't be my source. I can't be that source. That source has to come from the unseen, unexpected, unknown realm that belongs to only Allah, the infinite. And what has happened for me with that is that when you set the intention and you become a seeker, you admit to your confusion, you admit to your inability to figure things out, and you admit to your complete jahiliya, like I'm completely ignorant, I really don't know. Then you set the intention, you empty yourself, and then you let Allah bring to your heart knowledge that comes directly to the heart. It will come through the Imams, it will come through the knowledge of the prophets, it will come through the Quran. The book will be the same, the Imam will be the same, the Ahadith will be the same, but its effect, its opening, the deeper dimensions that will open to the heart will be completely different. And then be open to reading different authors, different books, listening to different speakers. The idea that somebody can derail us, misguide us, I find so far, please, I mean, I would like to be corrected, but so far, I feel there's no truth in that, because a human being, is very intelligent, and a human being has all the faculties to sieve out truth from falsehood. The furqan within our hearts, that ruh within us of God, is the inner compass. The inner compass is always there. The inner prophet is always there. The outer experiences are constantly activating that inner prophet. I'm gonna end soon, but I started late, so if you can bear with me. The inner prophet, the inner furqan, the inner compass is always there. And the promise from Allah is that He has made us in His image. He's made us His representative on this earth. Then He's saying that I made you for me, and I made this world for you. For means in my favor, not against me. He's made the world in my favor, for my good. What is my greatest goodness? What is my greatest guidance? My greatest goodness and my greatest guidance is to be guided to the truth. So the entire world is created to take me to the truth. It's serving me. It's in the serfdom of a human being. Every teacher, every guide, every symbol, even if you would allow me to say satanic influence, has been created to take me to the truth. Because the world is created to serve me. And yes, I'm so happy I'm getting a question. You mean by then that misguidance will not affect me? Okay, I'm just going to read it out for people who are listening to the recording. Salam, I'm unsure what you mean by that misguidance will not affect me. Where does the concept of Satan and his deviations fall into? Yes. I'm just getting to that. And I like to intrigue and then get to it. I'm sorry. But it gets our juices flowing, right? It makes us spin. It makes us think. And so we need to think. Is anything free of Allah? Is there any aspect of the universe where we can say there is no Allah? Is Allah absent in the Satan? Is Allah absent in the darkness? Is Allah absent in the evil? When we're saying that Allah is the only existence, nothing is bereft of Him. Imam Ali is saying there is nothing I have seen or experienced where Allah is away or separated. It's Allah is before it and after it and inside it and outside it and before it and behind it. So this is where Tawheed comes in, where we understand that we have to get out of our constricted, fearful states of protecting ourselves from misguidance from anybody, because every message coming into our life cannot be other than Allah, cannot be without the will of Allah. Satan is not created without the will of Allah. Iblis is not working whatever work he's doing without the permission of God. All of it, they're all agencies of God, because unless we sometimes don't fall deep into the darkness, we do not have the urgency or the need or the desire to get out of that darkness, because the inner compass will recognize this doesn't make me happy. I'm depressed. I don't want to be depressed anymore. I don't want to be in a state of degeneration anymore. There is a difference in our calibration, in our faculties, where we can differentiate between temporary pleasures and deep, lasting inner joys. I think I mentioned this last time, or perhaps in another talk, where there was an experiment where they tried to see the level of happiness people gain out of different experiences of what they do. And they gave out $20. And when they gave out the $20, they realized they took a survey. And they said that it was unanimously the high point of the statistical study that majority of the people reported highest levels of happiness and joy in using that $20 to give it away as charity. And everybody else who used it to buy food or shoes or products, they what they were doing is that after that experience, they had to write every day the effect of that experience for how many days they felt the experience of that joy. And the most lasting, deepest joy was achieved through giving charity. Point is that you have the freedom to spend your $20, but you will realize and come to a place of understanding where you found that inner rest, inner joy. Allah bi zikrillah tasmainul qulub. In the end, the human being is supposed to, Allah is saying, what's the Arabic for that? He says that go into the earth and explore the earth and go into different corners of the earth. And the Holy Prophet said, go and gain knowledge from wherever you can, even if you have to go to China, right? The Holy Prophet is open to that. Imam Ali is saying, do not look at who's saying it, see what they're saying. But we are constantly told that, don't go to this person and listen, don't go to that person, misguide you. Imam is saying, don't look at who's saying it. Listen to what is being said. And the reason for that is because they have, yes, thank you so much. I'm just going to come back to the chat in a second because I'm going to lose the stream of thought. And so what we're seeing here is that there's a confidence in humanity that the Imam and the Prophet have. There's a confidence that they give us. There's a confidence that they show to us. And they're saying, we know you can handle this knowledge. Go to China, listen to whoever. Your hearts will know where the truth is. Now, look at all of those people who got drenched into lives of severe materialism. Hollywood actors. There's a book called From MTV to Mecca, or there's a book written by this lady. She was a DJ or a host on MTV, and then she became a Muslim, and she's written her journey. My point is that when we go into the lives of seekers, we have to understand, you and I, who are seeking truth, we're making this effort, wake up early or late at night, leave everything else, read books, listen to lectures. There's an inner intention of sincerely finding truth, of sincerely purifying ourselves. When we have that sincerity, there is no way that Allah is going to leave us. And there's no way that He's going to leave us in misguidance. When the sincerity is there, go and listen, and your heart will catch on to the truth. The reason I say this is because put yourself now in the position of the Quraysh of Makkah. Just imagine yourself. Put yourself in that body and say, I'm one of the Quraysh, and I follow the religion of the Quraysh. And we have these 300 idols that we follow. And we have a good system going, and we're really happy. We have trade, we have money, and we think we're really blessed. And then this man comes and he starts to change everything and say things which are going to throw everything apart. And everybody's saying, don't listen to him, don't listen to him, don't go to him, don't allow yourself to even listen, put cotton buds in your ears. Imagine if I was one of those Quraysh and I heard that and I said, don't go to him, and I did not go and listen. And if I did not remove the earplugs and give myself that chance and opportunity, I did not have the confidence in me that if this man is saying something wrong, I'll dismiss it. I did not trust myself enough to say, if he's saying the truth, I'll be able to gauge it and see it and hear it and perhaps go with it. If I did not allow myself that opportunity to open to this new man coming and saying something new, I would have been the biggest losers of the century of my lifetime, that the Holy Prophet himself was available to me in that era, in that land, in that time. And because of my fear, I lost that opportunity of listening to his wisdom and coming to the path of truth. This is exactly how it's going to be for us with Imam Mahdi. because the ahadith we hear about Imam Mahdi are so like bizarre. Like a couple of ahadith that I heard, one of them was that the ulama will say, Yabna Zahra, go back. We don't accept you. The terror in this hadith is that they know the title of the Mahdi, Yabna Zahra. So they're acknowledging that he's the son of a Bibi Fatima Zahra. Go back, as in you've come. We recognize you as the Mahdi, but go back, because we cannot tolerate what you're teaching us. We cannot tolerate what you're telling us because it's so against what we were fed and taught and entrenched in. We cannot accept something new and so different. So to be in that entrenched state of holding on to me and myself and my theory that I would dismiss the truth is where I said that the concepts we build create artificial entities in our minds and freeze us. They don't allow the freedom and the fluidity, just like water becomes ice. And so it's really important for us to, one more hadith was that when the Imam will come, the stream behind, the river stream behind the mausoleum of Bibi Masuma Kum will be red with the blood of ulama, because the majority of the ulama are the cause of damage to human growth. These are ahadiths which I heard from my teachers, and not one but a couple. And the idea here is that everything about truth is about letting go and being open and allowing Allah to bring us knowledge, bring us the truth from different sources you can't even imagine. Sources like China. Imam Ali is saying, don't look at who's talking, listen to what he's saying. There are a lot of good advice that comes around on WhatsApp, but a lot of our people, they will say, well, the source, it's Ibn Taymiyyah or, this or that. And because people are in groups, they will dismiss that good advice. They will not take it. They will say, we're not going to read anything from this person or that person. And what that does is that it's depriving us of the lost miras. They say knowledge is the lost inheritance of the moment of the believer, because knowledge is with everybody. And what we're doing is that we're not reclaiming it because of the facade, because of the people who are giving it. So we're like, if you're going to say it, I'm not going to hear it. If you're going to say it, I'm not going to hear it. And then we have this fear and lack of confidence in ourselves, and we don't trust ourselves with what we will hear, how we will digest it, how we will allow, deliberate on it. And we kind of let go of that faith in our faculty of, being able to gauge that information. I'm just going to go to the chat and read it out now. Okay, so agreed, yet only good comes from him, not evil and misguidance. What of those that the Quran says, of those whose hearts are sealed? What of their inner compass? And so you see, for answering the first question, where does the concept of Satan and his deviation fall into? The Satan and his deviation is explained by Rumi as a touchstone. Touchstone is something that separates two things. Okay, so a magnet is a touchstone for iron fillings and non-iron fillings. A magnet will go and separate the iron from the rest of it. A touchstone is that thing which separates one thing from the other. The evil in the world and Satan in the world and his deviation in the world becomes a touchstone for those who will believe and those who will not. So, the ayat, Surah Araf 201, it says, when they are touched by the whisperings of Satan, immediately they have insight and they see the light. If you read Surah Araf, ayah number 201, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous ayat. It says, when they're touched by the whisper of the Satan, they see the light and they see they have an insight and they see the light. That means that there's a touchstone that happens through the Satan's presence. The evil in the society becomes a touchstone for me to now distinguish between the good and the bad. If Karbala had not happened, if the evil of Karbala had not happened, if the blackness, if the darkness of the event of Karbala had not happened, we would not have been able to gauge the level and the height and the light of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Because Imam Hussein can be kind to everybody. He can be nice to everybody. He can be cool with everyone who is nice to him, right? And it's okay. He's a good person. He'll be nice. You're nice. He's nice. You'll be able to gauge the height of Imam's kindness when you have the height of unkindness happening to him. That's when Imam Hussein can manifest his goodness. That's when Imam Hussein can show that even in that height of evil, I can show you that height of kindness. There's a hadith of Imam Ali that my grandfather used to repeat to me, and my mother used to repeat to me a lot. He would say, if the evil cannot, stop being evil, why should the good stop being good? And that is where the evil comes in to create a distinction and a lightness and a clear path for us. It's when you see the atrocity at its worst that you can completely deny it and say, this is bad. I do not want to associate with this evil. So the darkness and its contrast creates a clarity for the light itself. And that's why the opposites come together and they work together. And the second question that, only good comes from God, not evil and misguidance. But my next question is, isn't all and everything from God? Isn't there rape in the world? Isn't there war in the world? Isn't there famine in the world? There is a lot of that happening in the world. And it's a very, very, because now we're like on our 37th session in the Quran, and I have discussed these ideas before, and there are little, videos that I had done in my other playlist, Transformation Bites, where I talk about good and evil. And I've explained that everything is from God. Therefore, everything from God is good. And the evil in this reality of earth that we see is a mere tool for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us grow. So if in my life there is a tragedy of, for example, losing my grandparent, and that I feel is bad, or a child losing mother at a young age, or if you look at Oprah, she talks about rape in her life. And then she talks about how that became the complete motivating factor for her to become who she is today. And she will say that if I hadn't been through that, then I wouldn't be here today. If I hadn't experienced racist discrimination from my boss, I would not have become my own boss today. So the evil she saw, it was transmuted into a greater good, because that's the way human beings work. Our negative experiences becoming the propellers, become the triggers for us to enter into higher potentials. And that is why Allah has hidden good behind what apparently looks evil. Now, people who do evil, people who are perpetrators of evil, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is becoming a bigger discussion now. People who are perpetrators of evil, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the Quran, in ahsantum li anfusikum. Whatever good you do it yourself. And whatever evil you do is also for yourself. So we want to enter a higher vision of reality. And there's no harm in me repeating, because it is a difficult concept. I have talked about it earlier. We want to enter a higher vision of reality, a different perspective of life. The veil of the material world confuses us into thinking that one did evil to me and now I'm harmed. But if you go into the higher reality where you say everything is from God and everything from God is good and nothing happens without his permission, and he is Adil and he is the just, what you will see is that in his system, Allah will use the evilness of an evil person to be perpetrated on me to bring about a challenge in my life I was meant to go through for my growth. Okay? Allah will use the evilness of an evil entity to be perpetrated on me as a challenge that I need to overcome for my own growth. Somebody steals from me, I have to learn to let go of wealth and still be in a state of shukr. So that stealing act that was perpetrated on me from this human being was meant to happen. It was impeccably designed and meticulously put into my path through a particular plan of God so that I grow through it. The pain of losing my wealth will trigger in me the desire to let go of this attachment to money. That is where my lesson is. So whenever something is difficult happening to me, and if I'm going to go and choose the path of saying, why me, and something bad happened to me, there's no growth in there. If something happens to me and I say, everything is from God, and everything from God is good, and if something was stolen from me, what is my lesson here? Then I'm going to grow through it, right? But what about that person who did the stealing? The person who did the stealing is harming his own soul. And that's why whatever harm we do it to ourselves. So the harm was to that person. They have harmed their soul. They have done zalam to nafsi. They have done zulm on their nafs. But eventually, there was a lot of good for the person from whom we stole, because that person grew in the soul. So what this kind of understanding of reality does to us is that it completely throws us out of the body, throws us out of the idea of being damaged in the physical reality, and realizing that the reality of ahsantum, the goodness, and the reality of the bad all lies in the level of the soul. If someone can harm my soul, then that is my true damage. If someone can bring goodness, if I can bring goodness to my soul, which nobody can do, Allah is saying nobody can carry your burden for you. If there can be goodness out of it, then every experience becomes a good experience. Yusuf's, fall in the well, Yusuf's becoming a slave, Yusuf reaching the palace and being a servant there, and then being accused and being imprisoned, were all for him gifts of God that led him to become who he became. They were all his gifts. The grieving of Hazrat Yaqub for his son Yusuf was his purification in Tawheed, in reliance of God. All of the negativities that come to us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hold good in them. It's a veil. It's a blessing, like we say, it's a blessing in disguise. The disguise is the evil. But there's a blessing hidden in, and we have to uncover it, and that's where Tawheed comes in. So we digressed into this discussion, but it's a very intriguing discussion, and it takes a couple of rehearsals with this concept for it to really absorb in us, because we're never taught this. But our discussion started, and now I need to end. Our discussion started on the fact that go and seek truth from everyone and everywhere, and don't be scared. Don't be fearful. Don't be scared of losing the path. You cannot lose the path because your intention is sincere. You're a truth seeker. The fear comes in when we are scared of losing our labels. What if I find a truth that clicks in my heart, which is in Hinduism? And then what's going to happen if I'm not a Muslim anymore? That's the fear. But what have you lost if you find the truth? Like Imam Hussein says, what have I gained if I have lost you? And what have I lost if I have gained you, right? What have I lost if I've gained you? And what have I gained if I have lost you? So what have I gained if I'm a Muslim, if I'm a Shia, but I lost God? And what have I lost if I become any other religion person, but I find God, right? Just the way the Quraysh at the time of the Prophet, what did they lose if they found the Prophet? And what did they gain if they lost the Prophet? Prophet was the truth. and they lost the Prophet in their fear of getting misguided. So Allah's promise is that He has given us that inner compass and truth and guidance. When we go with the sincerity of intention, Allah can never ever let us be lost. Whenever we're in a conversation with God, He's holding us constantly, and we have to let go of the fear. Otherwise, we lose out on a huge opportunity of uncovering a truth which was supposed to reach us from a source we cannot imagine. And that would be the loss of a lifetime. That would be the loss of finding our truth and the right path. And that would be the saddest thing. That would be the regret of a lifetime. So I will end this session over here with a small dua. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Shukran lillah. Alhamdulillah. Shukran lillah. Alhamdulillah. Shukran lillah. Oh Allah, we come to you humbled and confused in our perplexities. Oh Allah, we come to you in a state of gratitude for this intriguing mind and this experience of life that begs us to explore and learn and to ask questions. Oh Allah, we are grateful for this opportunity and freedom to explore and learn and be truth seekers. And we're grateful to have a Rabb like you who gives us this freedom. We're grateful to have a Rabb like you who gives us this confidence and trust in us. Oh Allah, how can we ever be enough thankful to you? There is never going to be a level of gratitude that can ever be enough for the God you are, and for the freedoms of thought and for the freedoms of explorations that you have given to us, oh Allah. La ikraha fid deen, there is no force in religion, and that is your biggest kindness, Ya Allah. That is your biggest gift. So Allah, make us the way you would like us to be. Bring us to that place where you want to bring us to. Oh Allah, we let go of ourselves. We let go of any of our inhibitions and we hand our hearts to you. So, oh Allah, in this confusion, in this world where there is so much bombardment from everywhere, Ya Allah, we want to hold on to your rope. We want to hold on to the truth. We want to hold on to the heart where you reside, Ya Allah. We come to you in our humility, so hold us. Amen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin. Let's stop the recording.